The headlines exploded with an intensity few could have predicted. Jimin, the beloved member of BTS, appeared fragile and visibly unwell, sparking immediate intervention from Jungkook and Jin. The urgency of their return to Korea has ignited one of the most heated debates in recent memory. Was this a simple adjustment of schedules, or are we witnessing a moment of genuine crisis hidden behind layers of silence and speculation? Why did the atmosphere at the airport feel so heavy, so charged, so unlike the polished image the public is used to seeing? These are the questions that continue to haunt millions of fans around the world, as the mystery surrounding Jimin's condition refuses to settle. From the first shaky video clip that circulated online, it was clear something was not normal. Jimin's movements, usually sharp and energetic, appeared slowed, deliberate, and carefully measured, as though each step demanded more strength than usual. Flanking him on either side, Jungkook and Jin walked with a protective intensity, shielding him from cameras and fans while guiding him toward waiting transportation. Their tense body language raised immediate alarms. This was not a casual return home, but an urgent situation unfolding before a global audience. Was Jimin's health at risk? Or had other unseen factors forced this sudden change of course? The footage quickly became the epicenter of speculation. Some viewers insisted the trio was filmed at an international terminal abroad, while others argued they had already landed in Korea, pointing to alleged sightings at Gimpo Airport. This geographical uncertainty has only deepened the confusion. If they were already home, why did the atmosphere suggest urgency rather than routine? Why did Jungkook's gaze remain locked on Jimin, scanning every move as though afraid he might falter? Why did Jin, recently returned to public activities himself, assume a near-guardian role, walking slightly ahead as if clearing the way? The silence surrounding these details has turned into fuel for an inferno of theories. For ARMY, Jimin represents more than a performer. He embodies resilience, passion, and dedication, often pushing through visible exhaustion to deliver flawless performances. That is precisely why the sight of him appearing vulnerable has shaken fans to the core. In one moment, the carefully constructed image of strength was stripped away, revealing a young man whose humanity could no longer be hidden under the glare of stage lights. What frightened fans most was not just Jimin's visible weakness, but the contrast it created with the unwavering devotion he has always shown. If someone so committed to perfection appeared this frail in public, how dire must the unseen reality be? Speculation has ranged from exhaustion to more serious health concerns. Some argue that the sudden return points to an emergency, possibly medical in nature. Others suggest that the decision may have been precautionary, a way to remove Jimin from unnecessary strain before matters worsened. But if precaution was the motive, why was the atmosphere so visibly tense? Why did both Jungkook and Jin appear so solemn, their usual airport composure replaced with grave determination? These unanswered questions have transformed a 30-second clip into a global debate that shows no sign of ending. Social media timelines are saturated with fragments of interpretation. Some fans point to the way Jungkook subtly adjusted his stride to match Jimin's slowed pace, interpreting it as evidence of weakness. Others note the firm yet gentle way Jin guided him, as though shielding him not only from cameras but from something heavier, the crushing pressure of global scrutiny. Every gesture has been dissected, magnified, and reinterpreted, yet what remains constant is the atmosphere of dread. This was not the glowing, charismatic Jimin the world knows, but a subdued figure struggling quietly beside his bandmates. And yet, amid the mounting anxiety, another possibility emerges. Is the narrative of crisis itself a construction amplified by the digital age? In an environment where a few seconds of footage can dominate headlines worldwide, how much of what we believe is fact, and how much is projection? Are we witnessing a genuine emergency, or are we consuming an illusion shaped by the mechanics of virality? Fans desperate for answers may not realize they are building the very spectacle they fear, interpreting every silence as confirmation and every frame as evidence. Is Jimin truly in danger? Or has the hunger for information exaggerated what might otherwise have been a minor issue? This tension between fact and fear, reality and speculation, is what makes the situation unbearable. The absence of clarity has created a vacuum that fans rush to fill with theories, each more urgent than the last. One side believes Jimin's health has deteriorated to the point of emergency repatriation. Another insists the incident is overblown, a misinterpretation of ordinary travel amplified by fan anxiety. Both perspectives thrive because neither can be definitively disproven in the current silence. And in that silence, unease only grows. What complicates matters further is the broader context of BTS's current trajectory. With military service, solo projects, and public appearances carefully balanced, every unexpected change becomes magnified. Jimin's sudden appearance alongside Jin and Jungkook in such visible distress carries symbolic weight far beyond the individual moment. It suggests fragility at a time when stability is most desired, and it forces fans to consider uncomfortable questions. If one member falters, how does it affect the future of the group? What role will support, recovery, and rest play in determining their next chapter? Observers at the airport reported a scene heavy with unspoken tension. The subdued atmosphere contrasted starkly with the usual fanfare that surrounds BTS's appearances. There were no smiles, no playful waves, no hints of reassurance. Instead, there was silence, gravity, and a sense of urgency that clung to every movement. For many, the image of Jimin, flanked by his brothers, has already become one of the most haunting moments in BTS's history. Not because of what was said, but because of what was left unsaid. The global army response underscores just how deeply this moment has cut. Trending topics like "Is Jimin okay?" and "Why are Jungkook and Jin flying with him?" dominated Twitter within hours, reflecting the magnitude of concern. Yet the same voices expressing worry also feed into a cycle of amplification, spreading fragments of unverified content as though they were established truths. This paradox, care colliding with speculation, reveals the double-edged nature of fandom in the digital age. Fans want to protect, but in their pursuit of answers, they risk turning vulnerability into spectacle. Ultimately, the image of Jimin returning to Korea under such circumstances has become more than just a story about one artist. It is a mirror reflecting the challenges of truth in an era dominated by immediacy, speculation, and emotional reaction. Was this truly a crisis, or was it a projection of collective fear amplified by viral media? Until verifiable facts emerge, the world remains trapped between these possibilities, forced to wrestle with its own complicity in shaping narratives that may or may not reflect reality. What remains undeniable is this: the sight of Jungkook and Jin walking with visible concern beside Jimin has carved itself into the collective memory of fans worldwide. It is an image heavy with symbolism, one that will linger regardless of what the truth eventually proves to be. Whether it marks the beginning of a difficult chapter or simply a misunderstood moment, it has already raised questions far larger than one man's health. Questions about privacy, speculation, and the fragile line between reality and illusion. The questions that demand not only answers but reflection from every one of us who consumes, shares, and amplifies the stories that define our digital age. In the end, perhaps the most unsettling question is also the simplest. Do we truly know what happened, or are we merely believing what we want to see? Until the silence breaks, the uncertainty itself has become the story, and that story, built on fragments, emotion, and speculation, now hangs over Jimin, Jungkook, and Jin like an unshakable shadow. What lingers now is not only the mystery of Jimin's sudden fragility, but also the unsettling way speculation has overtaken truth. Every pause in his step, every protective glance from Jungkook, every measured stride from Jin has been magnified into a global narrative of crisis. Yet beneath the storm of theories lies a simple reality. No one outside their circle truly knows what forced this urgent return to Korea. Was it exhaustion reaching a breaking point? Was it a precaution against something worse? Or is the silence itself part of the story, designed to shield Jimin from the suffocating weight of public scrutiny? Until clarity emerges, the haunting image of three members walking under a veil of tension will remain etched in memory. A reminder of both human vulnerability and the perilous speed at which speculation becomes fact in today's world. The only certainty is uncertainty, and it is that uncertainty which keeps millions on edge. And so, the question hangs heavier than ever. Was this truly a moment of crisis, or a fleeting glimpse misread through the lens of fear? Until answers surface, the silence speaks louder than words. For now, all the world can do is wait, caught between dread and hope, as Jimin's fragile image continues to dominate the global stage. The moment the first fragmented images of Jimin, Jungkook, and Jin surfaced online, the global audience was thrust into a state of unease. The visuals were brief, grainy, and stripped of context, yet they carried a weight so profound that millions of people began to treat them as undeniable proof of crisis. But does a 30-second clip truly reveal reality? Or are we, as consumers of media, constructing a narrative out of shadows, guided not by certainty, but by collective fear and expectation? This is where the tension lies, between fact and fabrication, between the human truth of vulnerability and the dangerous machinery of speculation. Every frame has been dissected to exhaustion. Jimin's slowed walk, Jungkook's fixed gaze, Jin's protective positioning, all have been treated as signs of something catastrophic. Yet we must pause and ask, are we analyzing authentic evidence, or are we projecting anxieties onto ordinary gestures? Does exhaustion in public necessarily equate to crisis? Or do we impose crisis because the silence surrounding the moment forces us to fill the void with our own assumptions? The risk is clear. We may be constructing meaning where none was intended, turning fragments of reality into a spectacle of speculation. This is not simply about one artist's health. It is about the way we, as a global society, respond to uncertainty. Why do we so readily equate absence of information with confirmation of the worst? Why is silence treated as proof rather than possibility? And perhaps most provocatively, do we, deep down, prefer the drama of a potential crisis to the banality of reassurance? If so, what does this reveal about our hunger for sensationalism and about the role we play in perpetuating it? Consider the sources of this narrative: TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and countless secondary platforms. Can such outlets, driven by immediacy and engagement, ever guarantee accuracy? Or do they thrive on ambiguity, feeding a cycle where confusion itself becomes content? When we consume a clip without context, do we not risk participating in a system that rewards speed over truth? Are we not complicit in elevating uncertainty into a headline, turning unverified fragments into global discourse? The seriousness of this issue demands reflection. Is the fragile image of Jimin walking beside Jungkook and Jin evidence of a crisis, or a misinterpretation amplified by repetition? Are we engaging with facts, or with the illusion of facts shaped by emotional projection? If millions believe in a narrative constructed from unverified fragments, does that belief make it true? Or does it only reveal the vulnerability of truth in an age of instant media? Fans have flooded platforms with questions. Is Jimin okay? Why did Jungkook and Jin escort him so urgently? But must we not also ask, why do we believe so quickly? Why do we trust silence as confirmation? Why do we allow speculation to masquerade as evidence? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're essential. Without them, we risk surrendering our ability to differentiate fact from fabrication, falling prey to the very sensationalism we claim to resist. We must also consider the ethical weight of our engagement. When we share, comment, or amplify speculation, are we showing care for Jimin, or are we exploiting his vulnerability for collective consumption? Do our actions protect his dignity, Or do they transform him into an object of rumor, stripped of privacy by our own insistence on knowing? The paradox of fandom lies here. Devotion colliding with exploitation, care collapsing into spectacle. Should true support not include restraint, skepticism, and respect for boundaries? The silence surrounding this incident magnifies its intensity. Yet does silence always signify severity? Or could it reflect a deliberate choice to shield an individual from public intrusion? In our desperation for answers, we treat silence as confirmation, but is that not an act of projection rather than discovery? What right do we have to demand total transparency from individuals whose private lives are consumed by global scrutiny? The deeper question is not merely about Jimin's condition, but about our own. What does it say about us that we are so quick to interpret ambiguity as disaster? What does it reveal about the state of modern communication that unverified fragments can shape global emotion within hours? And most disturbingly, what happens to truth when speculation spreads faster than evidence, when fear outweighs fact, when narratives are constructed not to inform but to engage? We must confront the possibility that the story we are consuming is less about Jimin's actual state and more about our collective appetite for spectacle. Could it be that we are not witnessing a crisis, but creating one, imposing drama on moments that may otherwise hold less gravity? If so, are we not complicit in turning vulnerability into entertainment, in allowing speculation to replace fact? Is this not a form of exploitation masked as concern? At the same time, dismissing the event as mere fabrication would also be reckless. What if the fragile image was indeed a glimpse into real suffering? What if silence was not strategy but necessity, imposed by urgency too great for words? If that is the case, then skepticism risks trivializing genuine pain, reducing a moment of human fragility into an abstract debate. The danger cuts both ways. Believe too quickly, and we risk spreading falsehood. Doubt too aggressively, and we risk dismissing truth. Which outcome is more dangerous? Which error is more harmful to the individual at the center of the storm, or to the integrity of our collective discourse? The crisis, then, is not only external but internal. It is about our ability to sit with uncertainty, to resist the urge for instant answers, to demand evidence before embracing conclusion. Are we capable of patience in an era built on immediacy? Are we willing to admit that we do not yet know, even when uncertainty gnaws at our need for clarity? Or have we become so conditioned to immediacy that we would rather accept illusion than endure ambiguity? What unfolds here is larger than BTS, larger than Jimin, larger than ARMY. It is a mirror held up to society itself, exposing our relationship with truth in the digital age. Do we value accuracy, or do we value attention? Do we pursue information, or do we pursue validation of our fears? When a single video clip can reshape global emotion, what safeguards exist to protect us from our own susceptibility? Therefore, the essential question returns with sharper urgency. Do you, as a reader, truly believe that this event occurred exactly as it has been presented? Or do you suspect that it is, at least in part, a narrative constructed to capture your attention, to evoke your emotion, to draw you into discourse? By confronting this question directly, you are not only reflecting on Jimin's situation, but on your own participation in the machinery of modern media. Let us not mistake speculation for truth. Let us not surrender to sensationalism without scrutiny. Instead, let us interrogate the narrative, question the evidence, and resist the seduction of immediacy. For if we cannot distinguish between reality and illusion, if we allow fragments to dictate fact, then we risk losing the very capacity to recognize truth at all. The responsibility lies not only with those who create content, but with those who consume it. Are you willing to bear that responsibility? Or will you allow yourself to be carried by the tide of speculation? In this moment of uncertainty, the most urgent demand is not clarity from BTS, nor explanation from media, but reflection from us. Can we be empathetic without being naive? Can we be vigilant without being cynical? Can we show care without transforming vulnerability into spectacle? These are the questions that must define our response to SO. We end where we began, with a haunting image of three figures at an airport, one fragile, two protective, all silent. What does that image mean? Is it a window into crisis, or a mirror of our own anxieties? Is it reality, or is it narrative? Until truth emerges, we remain caught between these possibilities, and it is in that space of uncertainty that we must choose who we are as readers, as fans, and as participants in the digital age. Do you believe this event as you have seen it? Or do you recognize it as a construction designed to capture your attention? The answer you give is not just about Jimin, it is about your relationship with truth itself. And now the weight of the matter rests not only on what truly happened to Jimin, but also on how we, as readers, choose to respond. Do we allow uncertainty to drive us into panic, or do we pause and demand evidence before surrendering to fear? The silence surrounding this event is powerful, but silence is not proof. It may be protection, it may be privacy, or it may be necessity, but until facts emerge, the burden lies with us to remain skeptical, reflective, and disciplined. If we accept every fragment as fact, we risk creating the very crisis we fear. If we resist, we preserve the boundary between truth and illusion. The question is simple yet profound. Are we willing to think critically, or are we content to be consumed by spectacle? In the end, the image of Jimin flanked by Jungkook and Jin is less about certainty than about perception. Was it crisis, or was it construction? The truth remains hidden, yet our reactions reveal everything about how we consume information. Will you demand evidence before believing, or will you let speculation dictate your reality? The choice, unsettling as it is, belongs to you. The image of Jimin's fragile appearance, carefully shielded by Jungkook and Jin, has now transcended the boundaries of a simple airport sighting. It has become a test to how we, as a global audience, choose to navigate uncertainty, speculation, and the fragile line between truth and illusion. Do we interpret this moment as evidence of crisis, or do we step back and acknowledge that what we have seen may not represent the full story? These are not easy questions, but they are essential ones. When unverified content from TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube becomes the foundation of global discourse, the risk of distortion grows exponentially. A 30-second clip, stripped of explanation, may carry more emotional weight than a verified report.
Why?
Because immediacy often feels more convincing than accuracy. But should we allow immediacy to replace truth? Should we trust fragments when they can so easily be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or even manipulated? The haunting silence surrounding this incident only intensifies the urge to fill gaps with theories. Yet we must ask, why do we equate silence with confirmation? Could silence not also signify protection, dignity, or privacy? By insisting that the absence of explanation proves severity, are we not guilty of constructing crisis where none may exist? And if we participate in spreading this construction, do we not risk amplifying harm to the very individual we claim to care for? The paradox is undeniable. Our concern for Jimin may transform into the very pressure that endangers him. Every share, every comment, every viral post contributes to a cycle where speculation overshadows empathy. Are we protecting him? Or are we consuming him? Are we demonstrating care? Or are we feeding into a spectacle that reduces his humanity to rumor? This reflection extends beyond BTS, beyond fandom, and into the fabric of modern communication itself. If we cannot distinguish fact from fabrication in moments like this, what does that say about our ability to navigate the broader landscape of media? Are we critical thinkers or passive participants in a machine that thrives on confusion? The challenge is not simply to know the truth about Jimin, but to examine how we respond to uncertainty and whether our reactions honor truth or betray it. As the questions continue to circle, was Jimin truly in crisis, or was this narrative inflated for attention? we are left with a responsibility greater than finding answers. We are tasked with reflecting on our own role in shaping discourse.